In episode 87 of the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast, I talked about lots of different ways to improve your mental health at work. And in this video, I have even more simple ideas to help you out. So let's talk about mental health. Hello and welcome. I'm Jeremy Godwin and I share simple ideas for better mental health. In this episode, I'm looking at ideas to help you look after your mental health at work. So the thing is that we spend a huge amount of time at work, and even if you work for yourself like I do, which has its pros and cons by the way, so I'll leave that for another conversation. With work, you are inevitably going to have challenges. It's just part of life. In episode 87 of the podcast, I explored this in a fair bit of detail and I discussed some of the what, why and how of better mental health at work. So check that out. I'll link in the description below and you can either listen to the audio or read the full transcript. But in this video, I'm taking that conversation a little bit further by sharing some additional ideas of ways that you can look after your mental health at work. So let's jump into the first one, which is to monitor your habits. So when I talk about monitoring your habits, I'm talking about coping mechanisms and things that you do, like, 65 cups of coffee a day, or, well, I'm on about 4 or 5, but anyway, things like smoking, if you're a smoker, drinking, drug taking, all of these different coping mechanisms, eating, which is one I've talked openly about before as an unhealthy coping mechanism, where my relationship with food for the last few years has been just completely out of whack, and I'm working on that with a therapist at the moment. So monitor your habits at work. And what I mean by that is if you are finding that you are eating more or less than usual, if you are drinking more or less than usual, if you are pushing yourself in exercise to the point of exhaustion, if you are using unhealthy habits or behaviors as coping mechanisms, so overindulging in drinking, in drug taking, in non-healthy recreational sex. There's nothing wrong with recreational sex, but I'm talking about where it becomes a coping mechanism, where it becomes a crutch, those types of things. So if you are finding that your habits are getting out of control, it's really important that you deal with that and you deal with that quickly. Now, I talked about habits in the podcast back in episode 29, and I talked about distractions in episode 69. And I also talked about stress in this video here, which again, I'll link to below. So let's move on to the next point. If you're going through challenges, work can actually be a great distraction. So this is a two-parter, and we'll come back to the second part of this as the next point. But if you've got stuff going on at home or in your relationship that is really difficult and you're finding it really hard to deal with that, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, having the distraction of work, going to work and being focused on whatever repetitive tasks you're doing or whatever tasks need to be done can take you out of yourself, as long as it doesn't become an unhealthy distraction. So if you are using work to compensate, if you are staying at work really, really late because you don't want to go home, that's avoidant behavior. And, it's better just to deal with issues rather than trying to avoid them forever, because the longer you avoid things for, the worse you actually make them. But having the routine and also having that connection with other people at work, whether that's physically or virtually, because obviously a lot of us are working virtually at the moment and will probably do so into the foreseeable future, if not permanently. So having those types of connections with people and having tasks that you need to undertake and things that have to get done can be a really good distraction. But that leads to my next point, which is the second part of that. If work is part or all of the problem, take a break. Okay, so let's talk really honestly. I hate to break this to you, but you are not irreplaceable. I'm sure that you are highly valued at your work, but I guarantee you that if you left, they would cope. And so the reason why I'm saying that to you is not to make you feel bad about yourself, but I want you to remember that work is simply work. It is not your identity. And so the only way that you can really sort of manage yourself effectively and make sure that you are being the best version of yourself possible, both at work and at home, is to take regular breaks. rest and relaxation are the absolute best things ever. And some of you will be the type of people who like to rest and relax. And some people you might find rest or relaxation time as being more about getting out and hiking or doing adventure sports or whatever it is. But regardless of whatever it is, it's about taking time away from work. Now, you might just need to take a 5 or 10 minute walk around the block on a daily basis just to clear the air, clear your head, get some different perspectives on things. Or it might be about making sure that you actually have some structured time on a daily or a weekly basis to actually take yourself away from all of your responsibilities and just be, and just spend some time for yourself. Whatever it is completely up to you, but really I encourage you to take a break. And for the love of monkeys, take your vacation time. The amount of people I have worked with in the past who, here in Australia, we get 4 weeks of annual leave or vacation time as a minimum. The amount of people that I have met in the past who just never take those 4 weeks. Take your annual leave, please. Take your vacation time. You don't have to go anywhere. You can if you want. Certainly, there's some challenges. In Australia, we can't really travel overseas that much at the moment. But take time, take a break. You don't have to physically go away to take a break. Some of my absolute best times are out in the backyard, in the hammock, or sitting in a comfortable chair, reading on my Kindle. It's the best break possible. Find what works for you, but take a break. My next point is get away from your desk for lunch. This is kind of an extension of that previous point, and it's one that a lot of us get really, really caught up in. I know I am guilty of sitting at this desk where I work and having my lunch while I'm working, which is terrible. But you know what? Lunch breaks are lunch breaks. So take a break rather than actually eating al desco and expecting that that's going to recharge your batteries. All you're doing is shoving food in your mouth while you work. Let's just call it what it is. Take a break, consciously go and eat. If you've got a park nearby or some outdoor space and the weather is nice, go and sit outside. If not, go into the lunchroom or go into a private space or whatever, sit, read a book, do whatever, just take a break. If your lunch break is half an hour, if it's 45 minutes, take the full lunch break. Please don't just take 5 or 10 minutes and wolf down some food and then go back to your desk and call it macaroni, because you will burn out if you do that. And we don't want that to happen. My 5th point is avoid drama like the plague. So I talked in the previous point about sitting in the lunchroom, and those people at most workplaces who sit in the lunchroom and gossip to one another and read everybody else for filth as though they're, those old grouchy dudes from the Muppets. Please stay away from those people. Also, the people who just complain about absolutely everything to anybody that will listen, stay away from those people. I'm sure that some of them don't mean to be so negative, but whether or not they mean to is irrelevant. The result is the same. And toxic energy is contagious. If you get dragged into drama, well, don't be surprised if you attract more drama to you. It's like flies to shit. So avoid drama like the plague. If you've got a choice between drama or peace of mind, only one of those is going to help you have better mental health at work, and it ain't drama. So choose wisely. And then I have a bonus point. Surprise! And it is. Accept that change is not only likely at work, it is guaranteed. Absolutely nothing will ever stay the same at work. Why? Because the world is constantly changing and it is evolving, and businesses need to keep up. And if they don't keep up, they go out of business. How many people are still working for Blockbuster these days? So if you don't like the way that things are changing at your work, you should definitely speak up in a positive and productive way. However, you may also need to consider that your time in that role or with that organization might be coming to an end. Nothing is permanent in life. And sometimes things happen that serve to show us that it's time to move on to our next opportunity. So do so with grace and dignity, and do it while you're still feeling positive about your time in the role, about the organization, rather than keeping it so long and clinging on until the bitter end, because then you end up leaving with negative feelings and just bad juju in general. And you don't want that. So really think about what is happening. But bear in mind, Change is inevitable. And the amount of people that I have worked with in the past who resist every single little micro change at work, do you know what? It's life and it's work. You are there to deliver a set of outcomes. The outcomes are tied to the performance of the business, and the business will not continue to perform unless it changes and adapts to the marketplace and to what's going on in the broader world. So if you don't like that, that's fine, but don't take it out on everybody else. And also, maybe that means that you need to find somewhere else to work. So that's it for this week. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you made it all the way to the end of this video, give me a tick emoji in the comments. Watch this video next for 5 things that you can do to feel happier today, and subscribe to my channel for more simple ideas for better mental health every Wednesday. And catch the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast every Sunday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. Thanks so much for joining me today. Take care and talk to you next time.